All right, no more holding them back on what it is.
Yeah.
Hey y'all, welcome to Stivers Homestead. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jet.
And today is a lot of focus around a barn and raising livestock and having what we call a petting zoo style farm.
Yep.
And some major enhancements we made. So we've learned amongst our, 5-6 years doing this, some of the good and bad things to do. One thing that really comes into play a lot, especially in the winter, is we put, all of us, a lot of straw down, right? It's muddy, it's rainy, it's wet, you're trying to keep dry bedding areas down for your animals. Well, you're making compost, is what you're making out of that.
It's gross.
Yeah, so when spring comes and it's time to clean it up, you have nasty, heavy, deep bedding of straw. A lot of people believe by it, but we made a little bit of a change.
Yeah.
First thing, before we get to the new enhancement, if you're new to our channel, permanent fencing versus electrical fencing. Let's start with electrical fencing. Electrical fencing is the best fence that you can have for someone that's starting out on a homestead. It's awesome, it's great, it allows you to have animals quickly, to not have that big upfront cost of permanent fencing. However, one of the biggest downfalls is this. If you're not moving it often, you're gonna have weeds grow over your fence. So what that does is shorts out your electrical netting fence. Now, if you're just running wire, not gonna face that issue as much, but if you're doing the netting style like we have there, it's gonna short it out. So if you're doing electrical fencing, plan to move it often.
Yeah, and the reason we started with it at our old place was because we weren't sure where we wanted everything.
Right.
And it allows you to move them. Like if you are in a small space, you don't have tons of acreage and pastures, you can pick and choose and move them around. And it just makes it easier than putting them in a permanent spot that's really small that they're gonna dirty up and get filthy real quick.
Yeah. Now, permanent fencing has the total opposite side effects. So really the only downfall that we have for electrical fencing is the weeds that grow up around it. And a lot of it with the look too, right? I mean, it's not the prettiest looking thing in the world. But when it comes to predator control, electrical fence all day.
Yeah.
It's gonna keep your animals in, it's gonna keep them out. Not so much flying things, but anything that's rummaging around. Permanent fencing, first off, it's beauty.
Yeah.
It's very pretty. We have what they call 4-board fencing with wire behind it. It's really pretty. It's gonna last forever, unlike electrical fencing, which could tear and all that good stuff. They think they're gonna get fed. But when it comes to predators, they can dig under it, they can jump over it, your animals inside can climb on it. So when it comes to actually restraining, it's definitely not superior to electrical fencing.
But if you have animals that you want in a permanent spot, like our barn is permanent, so that's why it's okay that we put permanent fencing around it. But our chickens, they move. They're always going to be moving to a new spot, so they get to be in electrical fencing. It's really just about your animal and what you're doing with that animal.
Yeah, exactly. And what your plans are for your place too. Like she said, barn, permanent fencing. Also, chickens, they don't care. They just go out, if you can see it over there. So when it comes to electrical fencing, some people see their animals on it and they're like, oh no, they're not getting shocked. Well, if it's like their fur, or if it's like chickens with their feathers, that's a protected layer. They're not gonna get shocked through that. It's more for snouts and feet and paws, stuff that's bare skin. That's what really zaps them. Ask me how I know. And the last thing on permanent fencing is if you have people that come and visit your farm or come hang out, they can touch it. You don't have the fear of their kids not knowing that it's not electrical, or that it's electrical, and running and grabbing it. So that's a nice, relaxing piece. What's up, Turks? Aren't they just getting all big and ugly looking? You getting ate alive? Slobber, goat nibbles. It's fun in the barn. All right, now let's talk barns. Let's talk about structures, what you need to do inside of it. Obviously, not everybody has a barn. We have this is an 80-year-old farm. Would you say the barn's probably close to that age?
Yeah, definitely.
If we're swaying, it's because goats are eating the bottom and I can't hold it still. So we have about an 80-year-old barn. Not everybody has that. Some have just homestead building areas like we used to have, but we still suggest doing what we just did.
Yep.
Hey, we're trying to film here, Lucy. You don't mind? Let's not eat the camera. Okay, see? Hi. All right, no more holding them back on what it is.
Yeah.
Gravel. So We put gravel all down in our barn and in the outside active areas. This is mud central in the winter. That's not good for goats and their hooves. That's not good for pests. That's not good for what's the word I'm trying?
Parasites.
Parasites, thank you. All that lives in that straw and all that composted mud down. It's not healthy. It's not good for anyone involved.
Lord.
Lucy. She's climbing. Oh, it just went black. What'd you do to it? That.
Yep.
Right there.
Yep.
Ow,
Excuse me.
Come on. Okay, so some vets, if you talk to them and you're like, hey, I'm looking into getting goats, what would you suggest? They're gonna say, don't put them on grass.
Yes.
They're gonna say put them on 100% gravel and rock to keep the parasites down, keep the hooves done, keep their health up. Well, partially true,
Right.
in our opinion. So yes, it does do all of those things. However, goats they're not like sheep, so they're not grazers. They're what? So they're fumbling around with the words. Y'all know what it is. Comment down below. Tell us what they are. But sheep eat grass like cattle. They'll just go through the grass and eat it. Lucy.
Chicken.
Goats are more land clearers. Now, they eat grass. They love to eat grass, but they would prefer to jump in a tree and eat the leaves.
Well, they're
out of it.
picky. They don't like all grass. They don't like all greenery. They pick and choose what they want to eat. And honestly, they like high-end stuff. They don't like the rubbish. They want the good stuff.
Right. So, in our humble opinion, every animal needs to be on green grass.
Yes.
Period. I don't care what it is. They need to feel it in their feet. They need to peck at it. They need to eat at it. So we would never just put our animals just on this. Who is making that noise? Romper's coming through. He's making the noises. Hi. Hey, what's your deal, sister?
Oh.
Y'all good? Sorry, we keep getting distracted. So what we're getting at is, in your shelter areas, wherever your animals are staying, it is a really, really good idea to put down gravel instead of straw. It's going to be a lot easier on you when it comes cleanup time. And honestly, the animals like it. At first I was like, well, they probably won't want to lay on it.
No, they actually love it.
Yeah, it's
I think
their
it
spot.
keeps them cooler. And we will still put straw in our stalls in the wintertime, not in the summertime.
Right.
Because they'll stay dry in the barn. But in the wintertime, it gives them that deeper bedding, especially when you're having babies and stuff like that. It's just, it's like a blanket.
Right. But our through path right here, so our tunnel, and then all the outside areas, the one that's out there, the one right behind you all, where's the active path to get in and out of the barn, that's going to be rock. It'll always be rock. And that'll also help keep your eggs clean too. So those chickens, you know, it's not so much your nesting boxes are dirty, it's the path to your nesting boxes being dirty. It's what makes your eggs all dirty. So having that rock path, that helps get any of the stuff they got outside off their claws.
Yep.
And then when they get in that nesting box, they're going to have cleaner eggs.
Yeah.
So.
Also for goats, putting them on gravel is really, really good for their hooves. You didn't say that, did you?
I mentioned it, but you can elaborate on why that's good.
Keeps their hooves down. With goats, you have to keep their hooves trimmed so that they don't get hoof rot and all kinds of bad stuff, because when they get wet, it's just a bad situation. So you have to keep them trimmed, and we are still going to, but that rock, them being able to grind their little hooves on the rock really helps. It's like when you take a dog on a concrete sidewalk, it keeps their toenails trimmed and keeps them down, and it just makes it a whole lot easier.
And anything that can help that situation, you want to do, because goat hooves are like, imagine your toenails like at a rapid growth space. Yeah. They grow so fast. So anything that can help that out just a little bit, we're gonna do it. This is what we're dealing with the whole time. So as you can see, they're already putting their poop, and they've dragged some straw out, but it doesn't take away. It's just a very light layer. We still have all this rock in, and it's still easy cleanup. So this had a concrete pad or rock underneath of it at one point of this barn. So we have a pretty solid foundation, so not too worried about it sinking. And so that's a big thing to think about with rock. What do you need? What do you need to put down? We just put 57s down, which is your main driveway rock. And it also has like a mixture into it, so it kind of turns like concrete-y once the water hits it. So that's all we got. We got 10 tons, and that helped cover this big outside area. This is our morning light area, and the other side's afternoon. So this stays wet because it never has that good sun to get dry. So if you're wanting to do something like this, you might want to get a bigger rock to put down as your base. I think number 2s are usually what people put underneath of it. But you might want to get a small layer of that and then put the 57s on top, because if not, they're just going to sink right in the ground. You're going to waste that money. All right, so if you're new to our channel, we do have our 80-year-old barn here that's in great shape. Obviously, it looks a little old and needs a little roof work. However, structure sound. What's up, Buster? We live on 12 acres, including the one above us. And I would say our actual barn pasture area is probably 3-ish acres that's completely fenced off. Got our house, over there is garden, and we have another really old barn that's right there, but it is not structurally sound. We're planning on fixing that. This is home. This is primary space for all of our animals. We like the petting zoo style. We have a pig. We had 2, but Mama's now in the freezer. Turkeys, chickens, guineas, goats. Our livestock guardian dog, Dolly, who's awesome. And then we're just gonna keep adding into it. Now, the one thing that you wanna watch when you're doing this is you don't wanna have too many animals for the land that you have.
Yes.
Because these are not gonna be actively rotationally grazed. You don't wanna fill it up too much to where they're just making it a big mud pit the whole way around. And you can see that. You can watch it once you add a couple more animals, see how your grass looks. See if it's still growing and staying healthy and there's enough room for them to move. If you're starting to see a lot of mud areas and it's just bare grass or nothing, you've probably got too many animals in that area. What's up, Buster?
Hey, baby. Thank you.
Buster's our weather. He survived the worst buck ever as a companion, so Buster just gets to live his life out here.
He's a good boy.
He's a good boy, our best friend. Smile for everybody. Okay, so we kind of talked on that of people that have already had this going on. So if you're sitting there, you're like, that's kind of cool. I could do something like that on a little bit smaller scale or bigger scale, whatever it may be. How do you feed them, right? Like that's probably the biggest question we get having all these animals here. Well, the first thing that you do, you figure out the animal that is the most
susceptible to parasites.
Yes, thank you.
Or any issues.
Any issues.
Which is usually going to be your ruminants. If you have ruminants, they're the ones that you're going to have to cater to. Ruminants are the ones that regurgitate their food and then eat it again.
Yeah, so goats are that. So we know that they have to have a specific diet. They're the ones that are going to need the specific food for them. So you use that, you know what they take. Then you say, can chickens, ducks, guineas, turkeys, pigs, all that stuff eat that? For us, the answer was yes. Which is very good. Now, for example, if you had sheep, that's a whole different ballgame because sheep don't need copper, where goats do need copper.
Right.
So that would be something within the ingredients that you would need to check out, because if you're feeding non-copper food to everything, that might not work out because some of your animals will probably need that in their diet. Goats, on the other hand, we got lucky, everybody can. So they get fed in the morning. Dolly gets her food. She only eats when they eat. She doesn't have it free ranging because the chickens will eat that dog food. And then they get hay and grass, and it's that easy.
Yeah. Also, we've mentioned several times that this is our petting zoo area. So yeah, Mama did go to the freezer, but she was a cooney. She was mostly a grazer, and she could eat whatever, scraps, food, corn, whatever it is. But if you have any sort of meat chickens in the area that we're talking about, or if you're trying to do something like that, that's a whole lot different situation because they have to eat differently. They have to eat heavier, stuff like that. But all of our animals, they're not meat. So they just eat, their grain in the morning, and then the afternoon the goats get their hay, and then the chickens get plenty of grass and bugs and stuff like that to eat. And the pig, he's a grazer and he does get scraps. But yeah, that's one thing to watch out for. If you're doing it with meat animals, that's a totally different situation.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Just to add one more little tidbit there. For example, the meat chickens basically need their food all day. Sometimes
and that's why they're over there.
Right, and so like goats, they don't understand that. They will literally eat themselves to death. So if they have freehand food all the time, they're going to eat themselves so full that they'll get sick and die. Another thing like we keep, is it baking soda or powder? It's one of the two. Baking soda on hand all the time for that reason, because goats will bloat themselves. So they have to lick that to kind of help the bloating down. So very good point. It has to be all animals that don't need feed all the time.
Yeah.
And speaking of grazing, look at everybody out there. Everybody doing their thing, even the pig. And so this allows you to have a bunch of different animals in one space. And so we highly suggest it. It's so much fun. I think the best part of it is seeing like Bessie, our pig, turning into a goat.
Yeah.
Or think it's a goat. You know what I mean? Like he hangs out with one chicken and one goat.
Yeah.
And they're like best buds.
It's really cool to see the different bonds that they make, even
Yeah.
though they're all different animals. They pick and choose their friends, and they make little cliques, and
Yeah.
it's just really cool to watch the relationships. It's literally like Charlotte's Web.
It really is, and it's just awesome. I think the only animal that's ever been kicked out of the petting zoo are ducks.
Yes.
Because ducks can really kill a chicken.
Well, we have 2 males. If you
Yeah.
had a hen duck, you would be just fine.
I don't know. I mean, probably, yes. Definitely less danger than what we were in. But I could definitely still see the male maybe getting interested in a chicken. Either way, that's the only thing that's ever been kicked out of our petting zoo. I don't think there's ever been any other animal that just didn't work out.
Even the pigs are fine. They don't eat the chickens or the turkeys or anything.
Yeah, just be smart about what you're getting. Cooney is a heritage, slow growing pig, so we knew it would be cool. If you got a big Yorkshire or Berkshire up in this place, yeah, that probably ain't gonna roll well.
Yeah. Like putting a bunch of Yorkshires, putting a bunch of meat chickens, putting a bunch of meat goats. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, they're gonna be eating your chickens. So you just need the chill group.
Yeah.
And that's what we got here. So we love it. And we hope this video was informative for you. Hopefully you got a little laugh out of it and enjoyed it. So big things with the fencing. Always use rock if you can. It's gonna save you your back, and your animals are gonna love you for it. But other than that, I think that's it for today.
I think so.
If you haven't subscribed, make sure to do down below.
We love you.
Until the next one.
Hey.
Bye. Lucky for you if you hung around. The one thing we forgot to show is gates. So in our stalls, this is our milking area. So we have a gate up here that actually stays locked. That just came off, I just noticed. That stays locked. We don't let them in there so that won't get dirty. We have another one that's over here. So this is where we put our baby goats up at night. So that way we can do kid sharing and keep them up. We will eventually get gates for all of these, leave them open, but it's nice to have that. So when it's kidding season, you got a wild animal you just need to keep separated, whatever it may be, it's always good to have a way to shut them off. I said, you messed it all up, Mom.
No. Bless you.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.